and through
It's going to take a while.
that larvae stage they're fed, saves them crawling around trying to feed themselves like caterpillars do, and then there's a cocoon phase, and in the worker bee it's about 11 days cocoon and 11 days larvae, and then at 11 days of cocoon and she'll chew her way out.
So I could give them this frame, but there's no eggs in it, so I might pop that back in and go back that way for another frame.
So Mira's making an assumption that the queen hasn't migrated over to these frames because there's been a gap.
There's been a gap.
And she often doesn't. She'll kind of stay where she won't traverse across that gap. And for that reason, when you're taking a split, it's a nice idea to put the brood frames together, because if you create too much of a gap between them with some empty frames, she might actually sort of just stay on one frame rather than traversing across and laying on the already drawn frames over there. So when you're taking a split, I would recommend not checkerboarding them, but just keeping the brood nest together.
So this is brood all the way to the edge. This is mostly drone and honey. This is actually a pretty wonky frame. You can see it's got this undulating.
Yeah, typically on the edges they get a bit carried away. But look at the size of these cells. They're so much bigger.
So big up there.
And they design, if they're storing just for honey a long way away from the brood nest, they'll make much bigger cells. And that's why the flow frames are bigger cells than the typical 5.3mm foundation you find in the shops. Because we only want them for honey, not for brood as well.
Just letting you guys know, I think a few people are having a few video glitchy moments going on, so hopefully people can still following it. The audio's okay, but the video seems to be glitching.
Okay.
Signal dropping in and out.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry about that, people. We are using guerrilla internet here with with wires streamed across the paddock and bouncing from mountaintop to mountaintop, and usually it works quite well, but not today. One day we'll have to do a Facebook Live of the extreme internet setups we do to get signal here in Australia. So thank you very much for tuning in. We will wind this one up. We've been on it for a long time. We've been talking about spring management and the various things you would do. We've gotten carried away with what's going on in the hive, which often you do. If you haven't learnt something when you open the hive, then you probably haven't looked hard enough. It's this fascinating world, keeps on going, and the more you learn, the more you realise there is to learn. So keep the questions coming in if you have them, and also let us know what you'd like us to cover next.